Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope you are doing well. Napes, Ryno, in Sacktown, and watching a couple innings of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game reaffirmed to me why I really rarely watch baseball anymore. God, what the hell has happened to our game? Man.
It's a little bit different. I mean, it's not the worst of the all-star games out of the major sports, but it's getting up there, Napes.
But the point I'm trying to make is the way the game is played now.
Yes.
Every pitcher that comes in, all they do is throw as hard as they can for all intents and purposes. There's no pitching anymore in baseball, with the exception of some. It's all throwing as hard as you can. Every relief pitcher that I watch come in, I think I turned the game on, I want to say maybe the fifth inning, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Every pitcher that came in, all it was how hard can you throw the ball? And a lot of times there was no movement on the ball. It was just straight 100 miles an hour down the middle of the plate. And it's just like, come on. I mean, that's why so many pitchers are having Tommy John surgery. That's why so many pitching staffs are depleted, because your arm is not made for that. And I'm at a loss for words. It really bothers me to watch how the game is played now.
I hear you. It seems like in the last 10 years, it used to be not a head-turning thing to hear a complete game. Now you hear a complete game, you're like, oh, wow, you see pitchers being pulled out with no hitters. It's a different game right now. There's no doubt about it.
Shocking. I mean, you're right. Absolutely. So anyway, the American League does win the All-Star game by the score of 5-3, the Midsummer Classic. NBA Summer League continuing. Anything jumping out at you?
Not particularly. They're starting to come down the home stretch in Vegas. Kings finally get their win that we talked about last night. And I think really the biggest news, Grant, Lindsey Harding moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers from the Stockton Kings. She was the G League Coach of the Year last year for your Kings.
Yep. And she was an assistant with the Kings a couple of years ago. So good luck to her going to the Lakers. Question about my lawsuit. The judge will make a ruling in the near future. So that's all I can say on it. The Lakers, I think, have been, it's hard for me to say this, smart in the sense that they put experience next to J.J. Redick on the bench with Nate McMillan and Scotty Brooks. So at least that was smart. I don't like hiring Redick. I think the Bronny James draft pick is turning into exactly what we thought it would be, an embarrassment.
It is. And you know who I feel the worst for? It's Bronny James.
Yep.
He was already behind the eight ball when your last name is James, but then you get drafted. You got that target on your back, and you've seen it in Summer League. How many air balls did he have, Grant, last game?
Oh, my God.
I mean, he wasn't even close.
And listen, I told you, and I don't think Peja would mind me saying this, Peja Stojakovic and we were talking about Bronny James, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months ago. I can't remember, and Bronny played with Peja's son on the McDonald's All-American High School team, right? And they were together a lot. And Peja spoke in glowing terms about Bronny James, how mature he was for his age, how grounded he was. He was just nothing but superlatives when he was talking to me about Bronny. And I was like, wow, that's good to know. So, Peja was around him on a personal level and just had nothing but great things to say about him.
Yeah, and that is awesome. I think he's handled the situation really well, as best as he can. But at the end of the day, character doesn't put baskets in the hoop. And that's what the Lakers are going to have to come down to, especially as you've said, if they have him as an active member of the team dressing on the 13-man roster, that's not going to send the right message to Anthony Davis.
No, it's definitely not. Okay, so NBA, now we're in the middle of the month.
Yes.
And free agency is pretty much dried up for the most part. There are a couple of players out there. There also, we keep on talking about Brandon Ingram. There just doesn't seem to be the market out there for him in terms of how he values himself and how the rest of the league values him.
Grant, 5 years ago, this would have been a no-brainer, but this is where the new CBA has come into play. You can't spend that type of money on a Brandon Ingram anymore. It's not worth going into the aprons and sacrificing your in-season moves. Your MLE can change. I know that's before the season predominantly, but sign and trades like the Kings were into. So yes, it's a different market right now for Ingram and others.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what does happen with Ingram, because he's probably, the one guy that we hear about the most because it seems like he wants to move on from the Pelicans, and the Pelicans are okay for that to happen. But it takes a team out there that has genuine interest that is willing to pay him in the neighborhood of what he wants as well.
Yeah, exactly right. He's got, I believe, $36.5 million due to him this year. So I'm sure as the year goes around or goes on, somebody drops off or a contender starts to arise, a new one. Interest will pick up for Brandon as a rental at the very least.
All right. So the interest in the NBA, as soon as summer league is over, it's when most of the executives go on vacation. August is really a down month in the NBA. It's when everyone kind of goes away, gets their batteries recharged for the beginning of the season. It doesn't mean that trades cannot be made, but generally speaking, if there are no trades made during summer league, it won't happen again until September.
Yeah, and Monty McNair, we talked about it last night on the show, indicated that they are very confident rolling into training camp with this roster. Tim Legler actually was on the All-NBA podcast. He was talking about the Kings and some of the moves with DeMar DeRozan, and I thought it was really interesting as he listed the Western Conference grant. He had it one with Dallas, or first off, obviously Oklahoma City, then Minnesota, then Dallas, then Denver, and then he had this to say.
Yeah,
that's it. You can't tell me that you can't make a case. First of all, you might even get Sacramento even in that Dallas-Denver mix in terms of regular season wins, man. It's not going to shock me.
So not everybody seems to think that the Kings don't have a shot at it this year. What do you think as you see rosters starting to firm up now?
I don't have them in the top 4, but I think after that, it's wide open.
Yeah, and Denver, they continue to keep taking hits. Holmes, their rookie, expected to get some run for him at the backup center, torn Achilles. So I think that's a situation to watch. Jerry earlier today talked about the loss of KDP and how that's going to work.
The situation with Denver is on back-to-back years, they've lost key players. And I don't know if they have filled their shoes to a point where I can look at them as a championship contender anymore, even though they have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, who are really good. I don't know about the rest of their supporting cast right now.
It's a great point. And you got to talk about the guys you mentioned. Jokic, pretty reliable, but Jamal Murray has been one of those guys that's been good for maybe minus 10, 15 games. And when they don't have him, they struggle. So I feel like, Grant, their buffer room isn't there anymore. They're going to have to be on point every single night.
You know, as far as the Kings, I still want to see what the New Orleans roster looks like when we start training camp, because I still think they're going to make some moves. They have, of all the teams in the West, I think they probably look as different as any team, because now they have DeJounte Murray in the backcourt. They don't have Valanciunas, who killed the Kings. They don't have Larry Nance Jr., who, they are a vastly different looking team. And as we talk here on what is today, the 16th of July, we don't know if Brandon Ingram's going to be on the team or not.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think the Kings are better or more equipped on the offensive end to deal with New Orleans, because that's where a lot of the runs started. The offense stalled out. Tim Legler actually talked a little bit about that. The burn rates, Fox, Sabonis capping out. And the addition of DeRozan, by the way, I found this interesting. So we've asked, is there going to be enough basketball here in Sacramento with the starters? Here's what Tim Legler thinks they can do on offense with DeRozan.
They've got to restructure their offense to a certain degree. You can't have DeMar DeRozan out there kind of spotting up, standing around, waiting for De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis to run their action. Now, DeMar DeRozan is a really good dribble handoff player in terms of receiving dribble handoff. So there's going to be stuff where you can run it twice from the same possession. You come down, you run some Fox and Sabonis action. The ball ends up back in the hands of Sabonis a lot of times out of that action at the top of the key. And then he will run quickly, do a dribble handoff on the opposite side of the floor. Sabonis probably next to Jokic. I don't know.
He goes on to talk about basically opening up the offensive boards and putting Sabonis back in positions where he's the best, which is near the hoop.
I just think it's nice that the Kings, with the move of getting DeRozan, are on more people's radar now. Can I just say it that way?
Sure. I think it legitimizes, I don't want to say a threat, but it legitimizes them as a team that you have to pay attention to.
Yes, and I think that last year most teams that played the Kings were very much ready for them, right?
Yes.
They didn't sneak up on anybody. And we saw what happened, though, when the Kings lost three-point shooters. Their season had to be completely, I guess, reinvented to more defense, right? We saw the
Yes.
numbers change. You pointed that out, point differential, things of that, the rating and everything else. But it still wasn't good enough to make the playoffs.
No, and I feel like, Grant, to your point, they did the harder part of the work. The offensive end seems like it's easier to adjust. You've seen the tale of two teams offensively. Defensively, it's the first time we've seen them play. So offensively, I think that is going to be there more so than it was last year.
Okay, but now defensively, you don't have Davion Mitchell, and a guy that you drafted who you thought would fill the shoes of Davion Mitchell is out for at least half the season and probably more. Your defense, at least the way it looks right now, without knowing who Monty McNair may add, with DeRozan not being a good defensive player, your defense right now does not look nearly as good as it was for the final 30 games of the season.
No, and certainly Mike Brown, he's going to adjust to the different players that he has now. DeRozan being one of them. He's not a defensive standout, but there are ways to use him correctly. I think the bigger thing is putting the guys in the spots where they excel, like a De'Aaron Fox, finding a way to get him some room to be more of that free safety. Keon Ellis has to step up. Does a guy off the bench that we're not talking about, a Colby Jones, maybe get a few minutes and is able to have an impact on the defensive end? They're going to have to get help on the back end without Devin.
No question. And again, I still think you're going to see a couple of moves made between now and training camp. So there may be a player or two that we can't talk about right now because we don't have a crystal ball that may jump into the picture.
Certainly. Jared McLaughlin, I know you don't think he might do much here in Sacramento, but defensively, offensively, Monty has mentioned him a couple times since Summer League started and the signing. So training camp's a different animal. Once they get in there, they'll see what they have.
It's not that I don't think he can do much. It's that based on what I've seen, I can't expect him to do much. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, I do. Thank you for pointing that out. Absolutely.
No, but I mean, I'm not pointing it out necessarily to you. I'm pointing it out for our viewers. I don't want people to think that I said that the kid can't play, and I didn't say that. What I've said is I can only go based on the data that I have in front of me and what I've seen. And what I've seen so far and all the data in front of me, I can't just expect him to come into Sacramento and be a role player / difference maker in that category. It has to happen first before I can count on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he hasn't really done that thus far in his career, kind of like a Sasha Vezenkov, although he's more tenured in McLaughlin, but he's got that incomplete until he gets some run and we see what he does.
I guess the way I'm saying it is if we have to count on McLaughlin to come in and be that guy, I think people are having a false sense of reality. I wouldn't go down that road. I would say I hope it happens. I'm hopeful that it could happen, but I can't count on it happening. That's the difference. See, like when you make a trade where you acquire a player like a DeMar DeRozan, well, you know what you're getting in DeRozan, right? There's no mystery. You don't have to wonder, gee, how's it? You already know. Well, here's a player that's been in the league, 4 years, 5 years? I can't 4. And there's nothing that would tell me that now all of a sudden, just because he's on a different team, everything is going to be double and triple and quadruple better in terms of production and everything. No, I need to see it first. I just can't go I can't go down that road, Ryno.
Yep, absolutely. I totally understand that. That is a valid point. In fact, let's bring our man Jay into the conversation. Welcome in tonight, Jay.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Hey, Jay.
Hey, well, I definitely would have to say I would agree with Grant in regards to the DeMar DeRozan statement. A lot of people, they say, well, how is he going to fit in Sacramento? That's a huge question that's asked. When we're talking about like Jordan McLaughlin and DeMar DeRozan, you're talking about two different calibers of players, like 100%. With the fit with DeRozan, anywhere he's played in his career, he's never had an issue production-wise. This guy's a professional, going to be 35 years old. He knows how to play basketball. He knows how to play with a team. This is probably the best team he's ever played with besides the 20 games in Chicago for that short stint with Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. And there was no issues there. So I think he's going to fit in fine. And Ryno, I definitely agree with you with the Jordan McLaughlin, hopefully having that upside. And I'm glad to see our general manager is, signing people that he actually believes in and sees potential in and what they can be with this roster.
Yeah, but every general manager signs players that he believes in and sees potential in. I mean, that's part of being a general manager, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt, but I'm more on your side too. I'm happy that we have people that are, we got a decent guy who can come off the bench, but for me, I've never heard of this guy, and you guys know I know basketball fairly. I've never heard of this guy. I've watched the Timberwolves all 7-game series or 5 games. Well, since they played the Nuggets.
Me too. I'm in the same boat as you are. I didn't
even step foot on that basketball court.
Yep.
And no disrespect to the guy.
But I would also say this. Last year at this time, nobody in the NBA knew who Keon Ellis was.
That's very true. That is 100% true. The thing is, though, Grant, I think he's been in the I think he's been in the league for about 6 years, 5 to 6 years. So it's not, Keon was a G League for the first year, and then that's a little bit different.
Great point.
And so we could still say the same thing about Keon, though. He's still fairly new to this, so he might not have a breakout season. Who knows? I mean, you see right now, Summer League, he's kind of inconsistent. He drops 30, and then the next night drops 9 points, but that's not too much. We're not looking at Keon to go and grab us 30 points. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the intangibles that Keon brings.
That's right.
What really sparked my interest tonight was where the Kings' ceiling is. And I wanted to get into that really quick. Grant said possibly not top 4, right?
I don't have them top 4, no. But I think after that, I think the whole West is very wide open.
What about you right now?
I'm right at where Grant's at. I think 5 to me is the ceiling. I think 6 is realistic for this team if they hit their goals in 50 wins.
And
I still want to see I need to see what Phoenix is going to look like.
Yeah,
I think that Memphis is a team that is going to be right there with Sacramento neck and neck. I think Houston is going to be a playoff team this year. There's just some
playoff or play-in.
What's that?
Playoff or play-in?
I think they're going to be a top 8 team this year in the West.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Well, I would say, and there's a whole bunch of podcasts and people talking about what are the Kings' ceiling, and ever since the DeMar DeRozan was added to the roster, I don't really look too deep into that. I listen, but I never really thought about it. And thinking about it, I don't want to sound too much of a Kings fan right now, but I think if we can mitigate what went wrong without adding things going right, just mitigating what went wrong last season, mitigating the injuries, mitigating the missed free throws, and by things, mitigating those things that I mean, like giving up games to the Detroit Pistons, giving up games to the Portland Trailblazers, giving up games to the Hornets. If we can mitigate those and not even add anything, we can.
But I would also say this:
be over 50 wins. I really believe that.
The year before was an aberration in terms of health. The Kings had such few injuries.
Yeah.
Last year was more normal. You can't just assume there aren't going to be any injuries. There are going to be injuries to this team. And here's the deal. If De'Aaron Fox gets injured for any length of time, this team is not a playoff team. This team is not going to be in the playoffs. They don't have anybody, that is going to be able to run the team the way it needs to be run. We saw what happened when he didn't start last year. Davion Mitchell was not capable of starting and running the team. He just couldn't do it. So that's an issue. And you can say all you want about DeMar DeRozan, but Sabonis has been a workhorse. The guy really doesn't get hurt. Even when he does get hurt, he still plays like 2 years ago with his thumb. But, if they lose him for any period of time, they're in deep, deep trouble. They just are.
That's what scares me the most. I think losing, and I've spoke about it, losing Sabonis would scare me more than losing Fox. Just because we have people that can score as like Fox would, not obviously 30-point scorers, but you have Monk and guys that can shoot the ball, Keegan, but Sabonis is very difficult to replicate. And we've talked about Alex Len on the depth chart and where he would be on the depth chart going into this season.
The problem is when Fox is not on the floor when he's hurt, the team goes into quicksand. I mean, the team's whole style of play changes because nobody can run the way he runs and push the ball the way he does. Yeah. And so everything looks different. Now, with DeMar DeRozan this year, that might not be a problem because
Does that scare you more then?
Well,
Would losing Fox scare you more or Sabonis?
That's a tremendous question. To me, Fox is the quarterback of the team, and I think anytime your quarterback goes down, I always start with that. So I would say Fox, but both kind of A and B, or one or the other. I mean, they're both extremely valuable to the team.
To me,
what about you, Ryno?
Yeah, to me, I think it's Sabonis, and I've always defaulted to Fox as well for many of the reasons that Grant said. But now that you have another creator on the team, especially somebody like DeMar DeRozan,
Yes.
assuming he is healthy, that opens the door for you to play a little bit of a different style of basketball. And to your point, Grant, about the Kings struggling or getting to a point, and Jay, you talked about this as well, self-inflicted wounds.
Yes,
I feel
mitigate that, man.
You've talked about free throws for a second. I've talked about them at length, with the attempts being 16% down.
And you even
from
talked about
22.
giving up games to these teams that we should have never gave up games to. On top of that,
correct. So, and here's the thing: the Kings last year. You look at Fox, you look at Murray to a degree, but definitely Sabonis and Monk. Those weren't guys that were turned up to 85. You were asking 100% of everything they had in terms of burn rate, effort, attention on every single game, as opposed to winning teams like the team that won the championship this year in Boston, where you've got a bunch of different options and you use them just right. Yep. And so I think there's a lot of room, especially with DeRozan being able to move the ball a little bit more, that opens things up to let Fox get comfortable again. Let Sabonis get comfortable.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for them to learn how to play with one another. Jason said Keon had one good month and you all can't stop talking about him. That's totally not true. He had more than one good month.
Yeah, he definitely had more than one good month.
I don't want to speak for Jay and Ryno, but he's not a starting two guard in the league. He's not going to be starting this year. He's going to be coming off the bench.
He's not, but I wouldn't mind it.
But my point is, that's where you want him. He can be really good role player for this team, like really good.
Speaking of Keon,
yes,
my girlfriend actually, she's from LA. She comes back and forth. She lives out here now, but she goes back and visits. In the off season, she flew like right next to Keon Ellis.
Cool,
pretty cool. To illustrate it further, to Grant in particular, you have Fox, let's say Herder for the time being, DeRozan, Keegan, and then Alex Len, or you have Monk, Herder, DeRozan, Keegan, Sabonis. That's kind of confusing, but that's the lineup with like one of those guys injured. Which lineup would scare you the most? To illustrate it.
I'd have to have it down on paper in front of me the way you just said it. Yeah. It's kind of quick. Listen, all teams go through injuries and all teams have to mix and match during the year. And if you have a lot of good basketball players, it's much easier to mix and match. And the Kings have a lot of good players right now. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I really don't.
I think we're kind of stretched thin on the depth chart. Particularly
in what area? In what area?
In the forward, power forward, and the center. Like I'm a firm believer, and Ryno knows. I want a power five. I made my own position. I want someone.
So does every team.
Yeah, like 6'9". He doesn't have to be 7 feet, but he can jump. He got a 40-inch vertical. He's about 240, 250. He could play in the NFL type of, that kind of build. You don't have to be 7 foot.
Well, and again, it's July 16th, and their season doesn't start for a couple months. So we'll see if they add on. But I would agree with you. Ryan's right. Every team is looking for that type of a player.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much a freak of an athlete. There you go.
Yeah, I think the difference here is we're having a different conversation if Devin Carter isn't being reevaluated in 6 months. I think there's a little bit more optimism. You have a reason to believe because of what he's done in college that the defensive end could translate and be some of those stopgaps that you guys are talking about. But the reality is there's really not a player on the market for the Kings that take them over the top that doesn't lock them into a future where this is your core. This is it. This is the best you are going to have in Sacramento at this time. So the Kings are still fluid. There is still ability to dip, dive, move in the season if they're playing well. So it's a trademark of what Monty's done here. And I think that's a big advantage, that flexibility. Yes.
Yeah. It's either, and if you're looking for that player, you're going to find a hole elsewhere because you're going to have to, if you're looking for a franchise type of changing player or a franchise role player, an A-tiered player that can really add value to the team, you're going to be pulling from our team to get that. And it's just redundant.
Well, you always make a move if you think it makes your team better. I mean, that's something.
Yeah, that's very true.
You're okay giving up, Tyrese Halliburton if you get a Domantas Sabonis in return. So you can always trade a good player. Teams do that and roll the dice. Look at what Boston did this past year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they changed the makeup, not the entire makeup, but a big piece of their team in Marcus Smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look what happened. They got Porzingis, and then they got Drew Holiday from Milwaukee, and they were the best team in the league by far.
By far. I think it was 62 wins.
Yeah, 63 or 60. So Jay, don't ever say – you didn't say this, but in order to really get to that next level, like when the Kings traded Tyrese Halliburton, who they knew Tyrese was going to be really good, but they also were getting a sure thing back in Sabonis, and it changed the complete makeup of the team. Who's to say the Kings wouldn't do that one more time, and then all of a sudden you have a top 4 team in the West for the next several years?
That's very true. And I think, for example, to piggyback off of what you said with a trade, you have to give up something to get something. Keegan Murray would have to be that in that trade. And I think that's what I mean by leaving holes.
Because he's very sought after. A lot of teams would love to have Keegan Murray. But if you're going to trade Keegan Murray, as you pointed out, and we all know, you're going to have to get back a sure thing.
And that would have to be like a Lauri Markkanen.
Keegan is a lot like Tyrese Halliburton, in my opinion, right now. He's not a sure thing. I mean, Tyrese was early in his career. You thought that you knew what he could be, but you didn't know.
Right.
Sabonis, you already knew. He was a multiple-time All-Star. He'd done it every year. You already knew what you were getting. Same thing with Keegan Murray. A lot of people think that Murray can obtain an all-star type status, but you don't really know. There are still a couple of question marks after year 2 about his game that have to be answered for him to obtain that level. But there are a lot of teams willing to do that, to give up a real key piece to get a younger player that they feel can be a top flight player for many years to come. Yep. That's where the gamble comes of making trades.
No doubt. The All NBA podcast was discussing this about Keegan Murray, the upside, and whether DeMar DeRozan actually could stunt Keegan's growth. Here's what Tim Legler had to say real quick.
That's a good take.
I think so, but I do think he's got areas of improvement with his catch and shoot 3 still to come, and that could be more opportunities there.
So basically, in summary, he's thinking you get more of the looks Keegan got year 1, and you saw what Keegan did. So maybe it's not a bad thing, guys. You get Keegan back into his comfort zone as well.
Yeah, I don't think it stunts his growth necessarily. DeRozan is a ball-dominant kind of player, and Fox is too. However, Keegan, even though he was asked last season to create his own shot, he still looked kind of fresh out there when it came to doing that. Like he's never been tasked with that. So I don't think it limits his upside. It may limit the type of role he has in the NBA, if that makes sense. So instead,
I do think it stunts his growth. I think you have one basketball out on the court, and when you have Monk out on the floor with DeRozan and Fox, Keegan Murray's not going to be shooting the ball that much. It's just not.
He's not going to be asked to create as much, but we did see this throughout his time in Sacramento, especially last year, that he doesn't need to be rolling on the offensive end to play great defense.
That's true too. Yeah.
And he is the leader, in my opinion, of that defense. And he's going to bring it every night, regardless of what's happening on the offensive side.
I mean, it's
go ahead.
It's going to
be, Jay, we appreciate you joining us always.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. It's fun to talk about this. That's the one thing I love about Sacramento and their fans. They love talking about their team 12 months a year. There are many other cities in America right now where they don't even know NBA is in their city. They don't ever talk about it in the off season. And part of the reason is they have other things they talk about in like baseball or getting ready for the football season. We don't have that in Sacramento. So it's kind of nice to be able to talk about these things in the middle of July, even though I know some people go, gee, you're talking about this again. Well, that's what people want to talk about. That's what they're interested in. And you should also be interested in this company. If you have plumbing repairs that need to be done, questions, whatever, it's New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They're available 24/7. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That is sackserviceplumbing.com. Also, the Open Championship starting Thursday. Royal Troon, Can't wait to watch that. Can't wait.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to be boring and take Scotty Scheffler again, just because the guy's just dominant, but
Yeah.
It's a tremendous course. I've been blessed to play it. It's beautiful. It's, of all the courses that we played, well, I shouldn't say that because the Scottish courses, the links courses they're so different. I can't even. It's funny. After I got off the show with you and we were talking about Royal Troon, I went back and looked at my pictures and my videos from the day we were at Royal Troon, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, like it's just like it's an incredible golf course. It really is.
It seems like one of those experiences where you can't fully take it in the day of. You got to look back and really enjoy it then, and think back to the little things. I know I get overstimulated playing Pebble Beach from time to time.
When we get done with the show, I'll send you some pictures that you can check out. And the first picture I'll send you is what I was telling you about on the first fairway when I put my driver away.
Yeah.
So the first couple, and then I'll send you pictures of the postage stamp, and then So I'll probably email them to you because I'm going to send you a video too. So cool. We're on this tee box overlooking the whole course, and all of a sudden the train goes by. It's like whenever I think of the Open, I always think of the trains going by, and I got a beautiful video of it. It was incredible. It was such a great experience.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Are you buying into the Rory McIlroy headlines going in? How's he going to bounce back in his next major?
I would never count Rory out, but I also think he now mentally has a case of the yips when he makes the turn on a Sunday. And I know that's crazy to say that about a multiple-time major winner in all of the tournaments that he's won, and he is Rory McIlroy. But at some point, that has to creep up into your mind, huh? If you're tied or you have a one-stroke or a two-stroke lead. I mean, Rory's got to get over that hurdle now, and I don't think there's any question that he has it.
Yeah, you got to basically get over the hurdle to get over the hurdle, if you know what I mean. When you're especially something like a short putt, Grant, a couple of them like he missed on the back nine, that's the hardest thing because that's kind of the key to the rounds, especially if you're playing out there on the Open. You got to two putt, have to.
Well, I just want everyone to take notice of the par 3 postage stamp. It's one of the great par 3s in the world, and it's one of the shortest par 3s in the world. And I would predict that it will play above par this week at the Open.
Wow. So good. You kind of wanted to go back and play it twice when you were there, yeah?
I was looking at the pictures yesterday, and I was zooming in and looking at the undulation of the green. It's like putting it's hard to explain, but it's be like putting on the top of a Frisbee. Like would be almost impossible to have the ball stop at the top, Yeah. It's incredible.
Incredible. Your caddy said on the other hole that you got it on the green. I bet the stories from some of those caddies that walk those courses every day are unreal.
I only had one caddy I didn't care for in my 9 rounds of golf over there, and all the other caddies were phenomenal. And just talking to them about their backgrounds and everything they've done, and they were great. They were great. I told you. We were over there with a total of 12, right?
Yeah.
And we played a Ryder Cup format where every day we played a different theme, and we had different partners every day. So the guy that was organist made the teams and everything else. And every day we each put in $150 for prize money.
Sure.
So at our last round, believe it or not, was at the old course at St. Andrews. That was the 9th round of the week. And I matched up with a good buddy of mine now who lives in Naples, and I was playing against him. We were playing strict teams, best ball, 2-on-2 there, and we were tied. The two teams were tied when we all teed off at St. Andrews. So anyway, I get to the 16th, and I'm down 2 with 3 to play.
Ooh.
All right.
Deck stack.
I win the 16th. We go to the road hole. I'm down 1 with 2 to play.
Okay.
I get a bogey on the road hole, but he gets a double bogey, so I win that hole. I get to 18, we're all square. Now, the winning team for that particular day, when I mean the winning team, I'm talking about the winning group of 6. Whoever won that day, that was a sizable chunk of money. I think we all got like an extra $600 to $650. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I get to the 18th, and the 18th at St. Andrews runs parallel with the first fairway. And to the right is where all the old buildings are and the street, and it's out of bounds. So my caddies, and I have a tendency to hit a little bit of a fade off the tee. So my caddy says, I want you to aim towards the first fairway. I'm like, yeah? He goes, yeah, just aim towards the first fairway. He goes, because you can play the ball from over there. It's no problem. I hit a really good drive. And by now the wind's picking up. It's probably 25 miles an hour. It was nice for most of the day, but the wind's picking up as we get to these final few holes.
Yeah.
So I hit a really good drive, but the guy I'm playing with hits a good drive too, right down the middle. But he's a little bit further back than I am. I outdrove him by a little bit. And he hits first, and he hits right up in the front of the green, but not on the green. He's still not on the green. So he has to chip and putt to make par, right?
Are you guys talking trash, by the way, a little bit?
No.
No?
Not at all.
Okay. All right.
Not at all. So I get to my ball, and there's like 20, 25, 30 people around the green because it's a huge tourist destination. It's the birthplace of golf. People who go to St. Andrews, they just hang around the 18th green to watch golfers coming up. It's like,
sure,
it's fun to do. And it's just a gorgeous, beautiful setting. I mean, it's incredible. So I'm 153 yards out. Okay. My caddy hands me my 5-iron. And I look, he goes, it's going to play 185. I'm like, okay. And you know me, I get over the ball and I'm talking out loud. I'm like, okay, you effing moron. This is going to be the biggest shot of your life. I'm literally talking to myself, right?
Just one time, neighbor.
And I'm cursing at myself before I hit the ball.
Yeah.
I hit my 5-iron flush. And the second after I hit it, I said, greatest effing shot of my life. Because I knew it was perfect. And the ball ends up on the right rear quadrant of the green. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, I'm on the 18th and 2. I'm gonna win this damn thing. And as I'm walking up to the green, I swear, I got people cheering for me. And I take my hat off and I'm like being an idiot,
Yes.
And then right, you know what I mean? Like I'm playing,
Yes.
like,
Yes, like you're in it. You're in a major.
Jeff, who I'm playing against, who I have to beat, chips on, but it wasn't a good chip. So he's left like 25 feet. He's got to make that putt. So anyway, I'm standing over my putt at St. Andrews on the 18th, and I'm downhill with a little bit of a right to left. And my caddy goes, don't be afraid to hit this. I go, it's downhill, right? He goes, yeah, but don't be afraid to hit this. This part of the green is in the shade all the time, and it's slower than the rest.
Crazy.
And I'm like, okay. And anyway, I put a little bit more on it, and I end up about 8 inches from the cup. My partner that I'm playing against concedes. I make a par. He misses his putt. Because of that match, my whole team won, and we won an extra $650.
Nice. Yeah. You got the full experience. You didn't hire those people that were standing around the course and clapping.
So this is unbelievable. After we get done playing, me and my buddy Mike go into the official pro shop, the souvenir shop at St. Andrews. We're going to buy some shirts and stuff like that. We're walking back to the old hotel where we were staying, and we passed the St. Andrews Golf Club, which was established in like 18 something. And the guy that's sitting out there was a bus driver for another group of people that were playing a lot of the courses that we were playing. And my buddy was talking to this bus driver on a couple of different occasions, and he's sitting in front of this ancient, gorgeous, private St. Andrews Golf Club. Very, very private. And he starts talking to him, and he goes, oh man, I would love to take you guys in here, but you can't because you have jeans on. Because we had gone back to the hotel in or maybe shorts. I can't remember what the case was, but
something wasn't up to code.
We weren't up to code. So we're like, well, how long are you going to be here? And he goes, well, I'm going to be here for about an hour. He goes, okay, we're going to go back and change, and we're going to come back. So we go back and change, and we walk into this club. It was the most amazing. They had pictures from the birthplace of golf from 500-600 years ago. They had beautiful art. And then the real treat was, he goes, follow me now. And by the way, the carpet was the logo of St. Andrews with the date of the club opening, the opening year.
Wow.
And anyway, he goes, come with me. We go up to the top floor. It's like 3 floors. And we have to crawl through this tiny little opening.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we're out on this veranda overlooking St. Andrews, the 18th green, the 18th and first fairways, the Old Course Hotel, the sea. It was freaking spectacular. It was one of the great memories of the whole week. I'll send you the picture when I get done.
Yeah.
It was unfreaking believable.
Unreal. Those are the reasons you talk to people when you're on vacation. You're passing by this bus driver, and what the hell are the chances? You're living history. That's an experience you can't pay to get.
This club that we went into was exactly what you just said. It was living history. All right, so here it is. St. Andrews Golf Club, established 1843. And they had the logo with the 2 golf clubs crossing each other with golf balls underneath it in a light blue and a teal blue all over the carpet. So it was spectacular. And the day we were there was very few clouds in the sky. When you wait till you see these pictures I'm going to send you, you will be blown away at the 18th at St. Andrews. It's unfreaking believable.
Unreal. That's good watching, by the way. If you're ever around a nice course, Grant, I know you went to Augusta. I've been to Pebble a few times. It's fun to watch some of the players play. Incredibly fun watching people come up and live those moments. It's awesome.
So anyway, all right, we got off on a tangent there.
That's all right. It's a good tangent.
Yeah. How was your show today with Jerry? Good?
Excellent. We talked a little bit of everything. He talked about his trip to Cracker Barrel for his chicken and dumplings. Apparently, chicken and dumplings, that's Jerry's dish, Napes.
Jerry is as simple can be.
It was not surprising, but, he loves his basketball, loves his wife, loves his chicken and biscuits.
Jerry is simple, right?
Very much so. And so we had a great conversation, some good questions, talked a little bit of cards, actually. That's been a subject lately, but very cool stuff having him. Go check it out if you haven't already.
That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to send you a picture right now just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about on the first fairway at Royal Troon when I put my when I decided to put my driver away. I was like, I don't think so. I'm looking at this and I'm like, I just sent you the picture. I'm looking, you can barely even see the freaking fairway, I'm like
just tiny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like a landing strip.
I know, right?
It's like nothing there. Wow.
And then there are bunkers all over the place. I mean, wait till you see. I'm going to send you this picture. I should post these on social media so people know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, you should. I bet a lot of people would like to see it. Golf is an underserved area here sometimes in Sacktown.
So leading up to the first hole, you got the I just sent you. I'm sending you this one. There's the pot bunker in the middle of the fairway, and if you get in that, you're not getting out of it. It's like going up. It's like the Great Wall of China in front of you. Then zoom in and look at all the bunkers around this first green.
Oh my gosh!
Right,
6 or 7 that I'm counting as I zoom in. There's more holes than there is green here, buddy.
Is that unbelievable or what?
That is great. What a beautiful day, by the way, too. You got
it rained a little bit there. It rained a little bit there at Royal Troon, but yeah. And then I'll send you the picture of standing on the tee box of the postage stamp. And you're like, that's easy. I got my sand wedge in my hand. That's not going to be a problem.
I don't need a tee. I'll just play it off the deck.
Oh, Rory got a 9, so I beat him by 5. So I feel very good about that. You know,
No doubt. Those simple shots in golf, Grant, sometimes are the hardest. Like when you're on that first cut next to the green and you never
Yeah.
know whether to go with the lob wedge or the putter. It's sometimes just the little things. Here's the stamp. Wow. Yeah.
and then
You can tell the angle.
my buddy was in the coffin bunker after me. And I'll send you a picture of what that bunker looks like. And then the green, for those of you that watch the Open,
Wow.
then you just got to check out the postage stamp and look at that green and the postage stamp. It's unfreaking believable. It's just like, I don't know how people keep the ball in the green after playing there.
That's incredible. The lips of those bunkers. I know you said the coffin bunker, and they're everywhere around the postage stamp. Everything's just going that way.
And that's something.
It is something else. What a tour. And just think, what if you would have hit driver on that first hole? Would the day be any different because you found the club you needed?
I tell you, I don't think I used my driver once the entire day at Troon, and I shot an 87. And I kept the ball on the fairway almost every hole. I don't think I really missed that many fairways. All right, final picture I'm sending you is the tee box from 18. Look at that. You don't even know where to hit the ball.
Oh my gosh, that bunker, the little steps too.
Yeah, that's the bunker I sent you. That's the coffin bunker.
Wow.
And then 18, look at 18. Like, where do you even hit the damn ball? You know?
Yeah,
like,
you're not even looking to the hole's going to the right. Yeah. Doglegging a little bit.
No, it's pretty straight to the best of my knowledge. Not too much of a dog leg.
Looking at the hotel. I got you. Okay. Yeah. Whew. You got to be able to drive the ball.
Will you watch it at all? Are you into it or not?
Yeah, I love the majors. I love especially the British Open because it's such a different style of golf, Grant.
I like the Open. I like the majors now in golf because it's the only 4 times a year you get the best golfers in the world playing.
Yeah, and I think there's an added suspense and added intrigue to seeing the live guys come around the PGA Tour guys because there's some bad blood there. Some people left money on the table. So it's a good watch to me. But speaking of that, have you heard anything on the merger? It seems like the bomb dropped and then we hear nothing else.
Nothing. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, it's been cricket.
By the way, I want to get to this. For Cousins to have a more successful career in the NBA, he needed a Chris Carter type veteran that Randy Moss had early in his career. That was not there in Sacramento at the time. You're 100% wrong. You have no idea. You're 100% wrong. Okay. He had everything in his power. They even hired his freaking high school coach to come be on the staff. He had everything. And it didn't matter. You could have had Michael Jordan on the damn team and it wouldn't have mattered. Trust me. Did not matter. Go ahead.
Yeah, some of that from last night with DeMarcus bled over, and it came up with Jerry today. And I asked the question. I said, is it on the organization for not getting a better handle on DeMarcus? He said they tried everything. And that's coming from Jerry Reynolds. They tried everything.
Everything. That's okay. So that's not Grant Napier, Mr. Negative talking. That's Jerry Reynolds, right?
Yes.
And everything. He said they tried everything.
They tried everything.
And guess what? They did. And they actually went overboard in trying to make it work. And then they just realized, and listen, I'll be very open. I told Vlade Divac the day he got the job, you'll never succeed if you have DeMarcus Cousins on your team. Vlade's one of my close friends. I could tell him that. And Vlade waited, and Vlade would have traded DeMarcus a year prior to that, but Vivek wouldn't let him. Vivek interfered. And Vivek interfered with the trade of New Orleans, or else Vlade would have had 2 first-round picks instead of 1 first round. But Vivek delayed it, and because of the delay, they pulled one of their draft picks off the table.
Go figure. And the Kings were already – it's a debated trade, definitely. I know you get Buddy Hield out of it. But look, Stauskas, that pick, debatable whether Vivek had some swing on the Kings taking him when D'Alessandro was the GM.
Yep, that's right. But again, if Jerry Reynolds says the organization tried everything, that tells you all you need to know. And anyone that tells you anything differently either is completely uneducated on the matter, uninformed, which is basically the same thing, or they're lying to you.
Yeah, I think track record, what you said yesterday, goes a long way. It didn't work in other places, and he got multiple.
And a lot of people think I hate DeMarcus Cousins. No. I actually like DeMarcus. He's got a lot of personable qualities that I enjoyed. He can be extremely funny at times. He is very down to earth at times. But unfortunately, there are two DeMarcus Cousins.
Bingo.
And the one that has no filter, that can't control himself, is the part of DeMarcus that prevented him from being a Hall of Fame type basketball player. He was his own worst enemy. His behavior, his mental capabilities, and I don't mean in terms of IQ or anything, I'm just talking about in terms of processing. He wasn't able to process criticism, and he wasn't able to differentiate the people that were being critical and the people that were trying to help him.
Yeah.
See? And because of that, he became his own worst enemy. I tell the story. We were in Oklahoma City, and he had been suspended for 2 games for punching out Dante Green. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes.
Okay. So he was eligible to play in Oklahoma City, and they said, we want you to interview DeMarcus before the game. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So nobody's on the court. It's very early. There's no fans. It's just me and the cameraman and a few workers, but there's not a lot of people there, okay?
Yeah.
So I interview DeMarcus, and after he gives me his first answer, I stop. I put my hand up. And I tell the cameraman, I go, we'll be right back. I go, come here for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk him away because I didn't want to embarrass him. And I said, listen, I go, you were just suspended for 2 games. You got a lot of people that are pissed off at you. And you just came on camera and you gave a half-ass apology where you were mumbling. I go, if you want people to believe what you say, you have to talk louder. I want you to make believe that you're not talking to me, that you're talking to the cameraman. And I said, and don't mumble your words. I want you to be authoritative. I want you to be convincing. He said, okay. I went back and did the interview again. And at the end, he goes, how was that? Was that better? I go, much better. He goes, and he said, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I go, no problem. I actually, on many occasions, tried to help him look better. I tried to help him, like, have a better persona. I tried to help him, like, with things that I was educated on, such as media and interviews. I try to help him. It's not like I hated the guy. There were many times I tried to help him and give him a lending hand. But at some point, there was just nothing you could do for him anymore. Do you understand?
Totally. And I would, first off, no disrespect to you, the fact that had to come from you, right? That doesn't come from a coach, from a veteran in the locker room. That's where the questions come from the organization. But it was great advice to him. And I would imagine some people were, just because of what you said, you never knew what side of DeMarcus you were going to get, afraid to approach and give him some of that advice. To your credit, you weren't.
There are many times I tried to pull him aside and help him, even when we were yelling at each other or had a confrontational situation. We had a confrontation at Media Day one day. And I said, come here. And I took him outside and I go, let me tell you something right now. I go, you can go one or two ways with this. You can be an idiot all year. Okay. And you can be a guy that's going to be getting criticized, or you can acknowledge that you're not perfect. I said, I'm not perfect either, by the way. I said that to him. I go, so let's cut the shit and let's move on and stop the nonsense. And he said, okay, I got you.
Good.
No problem. And then like 2 weeks later, he's back on doing the same thing.
Yeah. It also was a time where mental health was a little bit more taboo, or at least it seems players now are more open to talking about that, receiving treatment, or it's part of the process, process that many athletes go through.
I am not an expert on mental health. I can't even define mental health. If you asked me to define mental health, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I consider myself a well-read, educated person, but I don't think I would be able to give you a definition that would be understandable for everyone and be accurate. What is mental health? So I'm not going to define what mental health is, but I think I can define this in my own mind, my own eyes. I know what erratic behavior is when I'm around it and I see it on a regular basis. I know that something is not quote unquote normal or right. Does that make sense?
Totally. You get those feelings. It's your
Yes,
instinct.
and being around him and everyone, there was just something not right with him. Now, I don't know if it's mental health. I don't know if it's his upbringing. I don't know if it's immaturity. I don't know what it was, but it was just so off kilter that, a lot of people actually felt sorry for him because he was arguably the most talented basketball player that's ever worn a Kings uniform.
It's hard to argue with that other than a Mitch Richmond to a degree.
He could have had an illustrious career with tremendous playoff success. He could have had his jersey in the rafters now. He could have been in the Basketball Hall of Fame, everything. All right. And he was his own worst enemy. He would not allow himself to reach that pinnacle or even come close to it because he was uncoachable and you couldn't deal with the guy. And that's unfortunate. He ruined his career. I mean, he really did ruin his career. He would have had the max payout from the Sacramento Kings.
Yes.
And after that, he got minimal contracts the rest of his career.
Yep.
And it was based on one thing and one thing only. It wasn't based on his basketball talent because his basketball talent was through the roof. It was based on his behavior.
Yep. And
he pissed away hundreds of millions of dollars because of his behavior.
Absolute ton of money. And there's good that can come from it, Nate. He'd be a perfect guy if he got it under control and was able to take a step back and come to the reality of it and what it was, that it could help somebody else, right? The rookies that come into the league. It's a story to hear, but yeah. Who do you think, really quick, because we had this debate earlier today, have the Sacramento Kings ever had a true superstar?
No, not in the sense of Michael Jordan,
yes,
Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, right? I'm just naming some. I'm not naming all. They have not. No.
Who do you think the closest is?
I think it was Mitch Richmond because Mitch played not only offense, but he was a great defensive player and he was a gamer. And you could always count on Mitch to be there. So in my opinion, it's Mitch Richmond.
That was somewhat of the consensus earlier today. Chris Webber came up a lot as well, but Chris's playoff record, a lot left to be desired.
Chris wasn't a leader, and Chris was more concerned about how many points he scored and how many rebounds he had than anything else. That's what mattered to Chris. Chris had to have his own set of rules. Chris had to be coached differently. Chris had to be coddled. Mitch Richmond didn't have any of that stuff. Mitch was a blue collar, give me my tools and my lunch pail and let me go to work. All right. Totally different.
Yep. He brought it, like you said, on both ends of the court.
If it weren't for Vlade Divac, Chris would have obtained nothing in Sacramento, would have had nothing. I mean, without Vlade Divac, there would have not been the Chris Webber story in Sacramento. Would not have happened. He would have completely self-destructed.
You don't have that role. Chris, I don't want to say more of the flash and dash, the pretty guy, the nice jumper, the smooth layups.
He was incredibly gifted.
Yeah,
he was incredibly gifted. He was an incredible basketball player, unbelievably talented. But you see, and a lot of fans don't understand this, in order to be truly great, you have to be great at many things and all the intangibles. Okay. What made Michael Jordan great was not only he was a tremendous basketball player, he was an incredible leader and made everyone on the team better. And everyone believed in their ability to be better. And Chris could never do that. Chris didn't make anyone around him better. And that's unfortunate because Chris could have even been much greater than he was. So, I mean, and his postseason performances alone would prevent him from being in the superstar category. Chris very rarely played well in the postseason. He very rarely played the way he did during the regular season. And that alone would prevent him from being a superstar.
No doubt. Very well said, Napes.
All right, let's get to Bennett's. And I wish I could get there right now. I would order their New York, which I love, medium. Oh, Please. Can't wait. I'll be in Sacramento next month, and I will be at Bennett's. I'll be in all 3 locations during the week, Sacramento, Roseville, and the West Side Grill in Rockland. Don't forget about their happy hour sips and taste. It's great, 2 to 6 every day. Prime seafood and steak, the weekend brunch. It is all there for you at Bennett's. Just go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. That is Bennett'sRestaurants.com. And you know what you could do after you had yourself a beautiful meal, regardless of what your taste are, you could get in your car and you could drive to Calusa and Sunrise Landing. This is a tremendous, tremendous project from Blazona Development, and you have multiple models to choose from. Just go to CalusaSunrise.com and check out these beautiful models. 6 to choose from. No Mellorews, no homeowners, close to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. No problem with access to I-5, Highway 20, Highway 45. Again, go to CalusaSunrise.com and check out Sunrise Landing, CalusaSunrise.com. All right, I got to tell you, buddy, I'm going to grade myself really high on that one right there.
That was good. That was good. My dog jumped up. I'm not sure if you heard that in the background.
Great. I had the great energy. Everything flowed. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't normally brag, right? I don't know, but I got to give myself a high mark on that one, buddy.
It might have been one of the best of the summer, to be honest with you. The way you just ramped it up going into Blazona and Sunrise Landing. You pulled me in, buddy, and then you said, I'll be in Sacramento. I was ready to drive to the airport right now. Let's go.
It's amazing how many people have no idea what they're talking about. The Kings couldn't build around him. Look at those terrible picks after him outside of Fox. They couldn't build around him because it wasn't possible to build around him. Every franchise that he went to found out that it wasn't possible. And that's why he kept on moving from team to team to team to team to team to team, because it wasn't possible. All right. You doing your show tomorrow at 2:00? Yes, sir?
Yes, indeed. We will be here on the Kings Court Live.
And you good to do another show with me tomorrow at 8?
Absolutely. Rolling our sleeves up. Let's go.
Double duty. My man's coming along. Good job, right?
Paying my dues. I'm loving it.
He can do double headers. He can do triple headers. He can do it all.
Well, not all. I do have to call New Works Plumbing to fix the sink, but I'm getting there, Dave. We're trying.
Good point. Hey, appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. And don't forget, the Kings Court tomorrow with Ryno at 2:00. And then we'll have an open forum Wednesday. That is tomorrow at